Welcome to Module 3 of the Praxis Core Preparation Series, Writing to a Rubric, presented by TLC Tutoring Co. and Arkansas State University. What is a rubric? A rubric is a set of guidelines for how something should be done. The term was originally taken from the Latin word rubrica, referring to the shade of red that was used for emphasis in religious texts. In the Middle Ages, the directions for the priests were printed in red, and the words that were to be spoken were printed in black. Generalized from these religious beginnings, the term rubric has come to mean a set of evaluative criteria in any field. Traditional grading versus rubric grading. In traditional grading models, each error would deduct a certain number of points from a student's grade. If you were bad with commas and you lost points for every comma error, you could easily end up getting a 0 for a paper, even with incredibly good content, all because you didn't understand how to use commas. Rubrics grade you based on different, separate criteria. Think like the different color text on a page. Each area receives a different score, and then the scores are averaged together to give you a final score. Rubric grading is highly beneficial to students because it gives them a better chance at reaching a passing score. Why rubrics benefit students? A rubric is a student's best friend for two reasons. Number one, a rubric looks at your writing holistically and gives you credit for both the content of your writing and the grammatical and structural elements, but one area isn't allowed to discredit the other. Second, a rubric tells you exactly what the grader is looking for before they grade your work, meaning that you don't have to guess what this particular evaluator likes or dislikes. A clear, objective criteria is laid out up front so you know what to expect. 4 P's of successfully writing to a rubric. Number 1. Plan your writing to address the areas the rubric assesses. Number 2. Practice writing to the rubric. Number 3. Prepare by looking at released samples of scored student work. And number 4. Produce an essay that meets the criteria you have been given. Parts of the rubric. Thesis. Notice that this criteria deals with only one aspect of your writing, the thesis. This is evaluated separately from your grammar and other aspects of writing. This is why most students prefer being graded based on a rubric. Each area is evaluated independently of the others. Thesis, Level 6. States or clearly implies the writer's position or thesis. You'll notice that in thesis, levels 5 and 6 are the same. Level 4 states or implies the writer's position or thesis. You'll note the difference between a level 4 and a level 5 is that the word clearly has been omitted. A level 3 response is limited in stating a thesis, where a level 2 and 1 have no thesis at all. Be certain that you note the differences in the criteria for each level of the rubric. Thesis. States or clearly implies the writer's position or thesis. 2 easy sentence stems to help you begin your thesis. I agree that blank because blank, or I disagree with blank because blank. Notice that the sentence stem does 2 things. It helps you state a clear position, and it sets you up to give a preview of the main points that you intend to make. Parts of the rubric. Organization. Level 6. Organizes and develops ideas logically, making insightful connections between them. Notice that the difference between the 6 and the 5 is whether or not the connections are insightful. From a 5 to a 4, the difference is more clear. A 5 connects ideas, where a 4 only shows organization and development. A level 3 shows limited control and development, while a level 2 is a weak organization structure or very little development. An essay that scores a 1 is, as before, incoherent and undeveloped. Organization. Transitions are the key to organization. There are two types of transitions: transition words and transitional sentences. The rubric level 6 refers to transitional sentences, organizes and develops ideas logically, making insightful connections between them. A rubric level 4 refers to transitional words, shows control in the organization and development of ideas. Notice the difference between the level 4 and the level 6. Consider the following example prompt. In response to the question, should schools require uniforms? Note the organizational strategies used. The essay begins with a clear thesis. I strongly disagree with the idea that students should wear uniforms in school. Then it follows with reasons why. Many who wish to implement uniform policies have good intentions and believe that such policies will reduce bullying by keeping students from being treated differently because of their clothing. Unfortunately, bullying is a complex social problem that results from a lack of respect for others, and changing what students wear will do very little to fix the underlying issue. If we change the way students dress, bullies will simply choose some other difference and emphasize that when they torment their victims. The most troubling aspect of this policy is the underlying message that bullying is the victim's fault for being different. Suggesting that a student should change how they dress to avoid bullying places responsibility for prevention on the victim rather than the bully. When schools do this, they fail in one of their most fundamental duties, preparing students for life after school. Kids are going into a world of people who are very diverse and unique, and bullying behavior in the workplace can result in legal action and lost careers. For students to be prepared for the future, schools need to take action now to teach positive social skills. You'll notice in the second paragraph, we carry the idea from the first paragraph into the opening sentence. Instead of masking the bullying problem with uniforms, schools should be deliberate in teaching students to interact with people who are unique or from a different background. Many schools have anti-bullying signs, posters, and policies, but few are deliberate in incorporating social skills into the school curriculum, especially at the high school level. To address bullying, it is essential to address the lack of social skills that causes bullying. First, students must be taught what bullying looks like and how to address it effectively when someone attempts to bully them. Then they need to learn that bystanders have a responsibility to help when they witness bullying. This empowers them to work as a community to build a positive learning environment in school and later a positive work culture in their place of employment. You'll notice in the highlighted sentence, we've once again pulled an idea from the first paragraph into the second paragraph in referencing students' future work environments. Finally, the bullies must be taught how to handle conflict and disagreement using healthy conflict resolution strategies without resorting to bullying to solve problems. The most important task of any educational institution is to prepare students for success beyond the classrooms, and uniforms fail to do this. In fact, uniforms hinder this process because they victim blame rather than addressing the problem. If we want a safe and peaceful community, we must start by creating a safe and peaceful culture within our schools. You'll note the sections in yellow where we address ideas throughout the essay that become universal. This is the connection that the rubric is referring to. Part 2, Organization. Notice that in the end of my first paragraph, I discussed the reason why uniforms are not the solution to the problem by bringing up future situations in the workplace. At the beginning of my second paragraph, I used the term real-world skills, which also refers to the workplace and life beyond school. Later in the paragraph, I mentioned the parallel between creating a positive school environment and creating a positive work environment. Finally, I end by drawing a parallel between the school culture and the community, the insightful connection between ideas. Uniforms put the responsibility for fixing bullying on the kid being bullied, which fails to prepare kids for adult life. Instead of this, schools should teach social skills that actually prepare students for life after school. Notice that there is a logical connection between the ideas in one paragraph and the ideas in another. And at the end of my second paragraph, I refer to ideas that I put forward in the first. This is what the rubric means when it refers to connections among and between the ideas in an essay. Part 2, Organization. If writing at a level 6 seems too complicated, you can aim for a level 4 on organization. A level 4 uses transition words, but does not connect ideas within the paragraph. If you use this strategy, you will want to use this type of sentence stem to begin your paragraphs. One reason uniforms are not effective is that. Another reason I do not support uniforms is that. Finally, I do not think uniforms are a good idea because. Notice that I still meet the criteria for a 4 because I do have an organizational structure, even though I'm not making connections between the ideas in my paragraphs. Remember that your intro and conclusion should give your reader a preview and review of your main ideas in both scenarios. Parts of the rubric, Ideas and Examples. Level 6. A Level 6 essay clearly explains key ideas, supporting them with well-chosen reasons, examples, or details. Notice the difference between a 5 and a 6. The Level 6 essay clearly explains ideas with well-chosen reasons and examples, where the Level 5 simply explains ideas with relevant reasons, examples, or details. Notice the difference between the 5 and the 4. The word some, meaning that not all of the key ideas are supported. A level 3 has inadequate reasons or examples, where a level 2 has no relevant reasons or examples. An essay that scores a level 1 is, as before, incoherent or underdeveloped. Bad ideas and examples. Logical fallacies. You'll note that logical refers to the quality of making logical sense. Fallacies are failures. Therefore, a logical fallacy is a failure on the part of a writer to make logical sense when writing. We are going to look at some of the more common logical fallacies and ways that you can avoid those in your writing. The first logical fallacy is a slippery slope. Consider the example. If we make kids wear uniforms, they won't learn to respect individual freedom, and the next thing you know, we'll be living in a totalitarian society with no freedom at all. In a slippery slope logical fallacy, the person writing makes the assumption that one thing will inevitably lead to another, much worse thing. There is no proof that wearing a uniform does in fact correlate to living in a totalitarian society. The next logical fallacy is a false equivalency. Making kids wear uniforms is like making them prisoners in their own school. While it may be true that individuals who are incarcerated wear uniforms, There are also many other jobs and career fields that require uniforms. To say that making a student wear a uniform is to treat them like a prisoner is a false equivalency. The next logical fallacy is bandwagon. This one is the most famous among students because it's the all of our other teachers let us do it argument. If you look at the example, no other schools are wearing uniforms, so we shouldn't have to either. The problem with this logic is that just because no other school or teacher is doing something, that doesn't mean that they are correct in what they are doing. The argument is based on the popularity of an idea rather than on the rightness of that idea. Finally, we have attacking the person, which you'll also hear referred to as an ad hominem argument. Administrators only want to make students wear uniforms because they're too lazy to step up and deal with the bullying problem, and they think it's an easy way out. In this case, instead of dealing with the problem of bullying, the person writing the argument attacks another individual, the school administrator. The problem with all of these logical fallacies is that they are easily overcome in an argument, and they make the writer appear less intelligent. Ideas and examples. Good examples and ideas are clear and relevant. Consider the first example. If we change the way students dress, bullies will simply choose some other difference to emphasize when they torment their victims. Note that the idea presented clearly relates to my topic and it supports my main point. Many schools have anti-bullying signs, posters, and policies, but few are deliberate in incorporating social skills into the school curriculum, especially at the high school level. Note that my example is realistic and believable. The person grading my writing knows that I don't have the ability to research exact statistics to back up my argument, but they will accept it because it is a reasonable and believable example to support my argument. Parts of the rubric, mechanics. There are three primary areas that the rubric considers when looking at the mechanics of writing: sentence variety, language, and grammar. You'll notice that sentence variety only provides descriptors for a 5 and a 6. At a level 6, the writer displays effective sentence variety, where at a level 5, the writer displays some sentence variety. Take a look at the differences in the levels of language. At a level 6, the writer clearly displays facility in the use of language. At a level 5, the writer displays facility in the use of language. You'll note that the word clearly has been omitted. At a level 4, the writer displays adequate use of language. At a level 3, we find an accumulation of errors in the use of language. At a level 2, there are serious errors, and at a level 1, there are serious and persistent writing errors. Look next at the criteria for grammar. At a level 6, the essay is generally free from errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics. At a level 5, the essay is generally free from errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics as well. Note the change at a level 4. A level 4 shows control of grammar, usage, and mechanics, but may display errors. At a level 3, the writer shows an accumulation of errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics. At a level 2, frequent serious errors, and at a level 1, serious and persistent errors. Note the similarities in the criteria used, especially at levels 1, 2, and 3, when assessing language and grammar. Sentence variety. To understand how to create a variety of sentences, It is essential to have a strong understanding of how sentences are composed. The most basic unit of a sentence is the clause, a group of words with a subject and a verb. There are two types of clauses, independent and subordinate. Independent clauses stand alone and can be joined by coordinating conjunctions, abbreviated fanboys. Subordinate clauses are clauses that begin with a subordinating conjunction, such as if, since, because, while. These clauses are unable to stand alone. Mechanics, sentence variety. Consider the following types of sentences. Each of these can be incorporated into your essay to help provide the sentence variety that you're looking for at a level 5 or 6. The first example shows a simple sentence. This is an independent clause with a subject and a verb that is able to stand alone. Consider the two examples. Uniforms are not the solution to bullying. I do not support school uniforms. Both of these are simple sentences with a subject and a verb, one independent clause. In the second example for a compound sentence, we find that you have an independent clause, a coordinating conjunction, and another independent clause. Uniforms are not the solution to bullying, comma, and I do not support school uniforms. Note that each clause still has a subject and verb. They are able to stand alone, and they're joined using a comma and a fanboys conjunction. Complex sentence. In the complex sentence, we have a subordinate clause. Remember, a subordinate clause is a group of words with a subject and a verb, but it begins with a subordinating conjunction, so it's not able to stand alone. The subordinate clause is connected to an independent clause. While I appreciate the need for a solution to the bullying problem, I don't think uniforms are the solution. While is the subordinating conjunction, I is the subject, appreciate is the verb in your subordinate clause. In your independent clause, I is the subject, do think is the verb. Notice that the subordinate clause begins with a subordinating conjunction at the beginning of the sentence, so it is always followed by a comma when at the beginning of the sentence. In the next example, we see a compound complex sentence. This takes the compound sentence, which is two independent clauses joined with a coordinating conjunction, and adds a subordinate clause as well. While I appreciate the need for a solution to the bullying problem, I don't think uniforms are the solution, comma, and I am concerned about the underlying issues that uniforms fail to address. Notice at the beginning, I have a subordinate clause, while I appreciate the need for a solution to the bullying problem. Then an independent clause, I don't think uniforms are the solution, comma and coordinating conjunction, comma and. Then an independent clause, I am concerned about the underlying issues, followed by a subordinate clause, that uniforms fail to address. The key to getting a variety of sentences is planning ahead, learning how each type of sentence is composed, and being deliberate in incorporating at least one of each into your writing. Language. How do you clearly display facility in the use of language? Diction or word choice is one of your most important decisions in this area. Do your words clearly convey your meaning? Does your word choice fit the tone of what you are writing about? Does your writing use slang or cliches? Your use of language has a huge impact on the credibility of your writing. If you choose your words well, you appear more credible to your reader. Language. Be specific. Think about the word love. I love my new car. I love my family. I love pizza. If a word can describe your feelings about a car, your family, and a pizza, is it really an effective word for communicating a specific idea? It communicates that you approve and like something, but do you really feel the same way toward your family and a pizza? When you use language, think about using words that are specific and that convey meaning. Language. Sample corrections. Consider replacing general words with more specific words that convey greater meaning. For example, the word good could be replaced with excellent, wonderful, well done, or outstanding. Any of these convey more specific meaning than simply saying something is good. Consider the word nice. It may be replaced with pleasant, enjoyable, comfortable, friendly, or welcoming. Notice that the options for replacing nice are all much more specific. Like love, nice is a word that gets used very generally, a word that can describe whether a person and a thing has very little meaning. Consider bad. It could be replaced with dreadful, evil, terrible, disheartening, or unfortunate. Thing is also a word that frequently needs to be replaced. While there's not a specific replacement, it's best to consider what you're actually saying. For example, it's a bad thing when children lack food and clothing. Instead of saying thing, you could say it's a tragedy when children lack food and clothing. Tragedy has a much greater impact on the reader and is much more clear and specific. Just is another word that is commonly used when it's not needed. Always replace just with something more specific. He just wanted to help. Instead, you could say, he desperately wanted to help, or he sincerely wanted to help. Language, vocabulary. Consider how the word choice in these two sentences changes your perception of the writer. Sentence 1. Making students wear uniforms is a bad thing because it's not fair to the kids who don't have enough money to buy the uniforms. Consider the revisions in the second sentence. Note that the parts in yellow have been changed. Making students wear uniforms is a poor decision because it's not equitable to the individuals who can't afford to purchase uniforms. You'll note that bad thing, highlighted in yellow, was changed to poor decision, highlighted in blue. Not fair was changed to not equitable. Kids was changed to individuals. Don't have money to can't afford, and buy to purchase. The first sentence isn't wrong or incorrect, but the vocabulary lacks the maturity of the second sentence, changing your perception of the writer. Remember, strong vocabulary makes for strong writing. Commonly confused words. It is important to remember to be very careful about commonly confused words. These are easily corrected, but they also are easily missed. Consider the word its. IT' means it is. ITS with no apostrophe is a possessive, belongs to it. If I wish to say, it's a beautiful morning, I would use IT''. If I wanted to say the truck needs to have its oil changed, I would use ITS with no apostrophe. Very often on standardized tests, you'll find ITS followed by an apostrophe. This is not a word and should never be used. Another example is lie and lay. To lie means to recline your body, as in I need to lie down. Lay means to place an object. I will lay the books on the table. Lose and loose are also commonly confused. L-O-S-E is lose, which means to misplace something. L-O-O-S-E is loose, as in not tight. Also, remember the difference between accept with an A and accept with an E. With an A, to accept something means to take something that has been given to you. Accept means something that is left out or excluded. Notice a lot, A space L-O-T, means many. A lot as one word is not a word. Affect with an A means to influence, and it is a verb, an action. Effect is a result, a thing. So if I wanted to say that I will affect my grade by giving more time to studying, I would use affect with an A. If I wanted to say the effect of additional study will be an improved grade, I would use affect with an E. Remember the difference between past and past. P-A-S-S-E-D means went by, the action. P-A-S-T, past, is a time before now. It's a thing. Also, remember the difference between than and then. Than is used to make a comparison, more or less than something else. Then is a word used to show steps in a sequence. First do this, then do that. Another commonly confused set of words is there, and there. T-H-E-R-E is a place that is not here. T-H-E-I-R means belongs to them. T-H-E-Y'-R-E means they are. Through, and through are also easily confused. Through, T-H-R-O-U-G-H, means going into and out of something. For example, we drove through the tunnel. Through, T-H-R-E-W, means to throw in the past. I threw the ball. Finally, T-H-R-U, although commonly seen, is not a word. Grammar, common errors. The three examples that you see on the screen are three of the most common grammatical errors that occur in sentence construction. The first, a fragment, is a group of words that is punctuated like a sentence but lacks a subject and a verb. The second is the run-on sentence or comma splice. A run-on sentence occurs when two sentences are joined without a conjunction or proper punctuation. A comma splice is a similar problem that joins two sentences using only a comma. Incorrect punctuation. Take time to review the punctuation rules for commas, semicolons, and other common marks of punctuation. If any of these are unfamiliar, please review Unit 1 of this series. Unit 1 offers extensive instruction in sentence formation. Final thoughts. A rubric is a writer's best friend because it tells you how the grader is evaluating you and takes the guesswork out of getting a good score. Practice writing using released prompts or create your own argumentative writing topics. Use the rubric to evaluate your own writing, then make revisions to any area where you aren't able to give yourself a score of 6. Have someone else look at the rubric and look at your writing. Let them give you feedback. The only way to become a good writer is consistent practice. The more you write, the easier it becomes to think of ideas to write about, to put those ideas into words, and to express your ideas effectively.